Anyway, yeah, guys, I hope you're all doing well today. With everything going on in the world, certainly know that, you know, I hope you're all doing well. Hope everything is going good. Um, we got Alois here, Jonathan Velasquez, LB from the Lonely Banter, LB from the Lonely Banter, Anthony Bonzano, thank you for being here. Burke Family 54 Comics, thank you so much for being here. Says only hear disgusting rock music. Oh man, that's terrible. Terrible, man. Come on, man. Aggressively relaxing says, you guys hear that song too? Normally it's just me all day long. Yeah, right? DCeased 1 through 6 was great. It actually was good. It actually was good. And that's what I wanted to talk about this a little bit today because, well, we all know that DC has been releasing comic books. Has been releasing books digital online. And I believe even in the stores you can pick up the print versions today at your LCS. I believe that's okay to do. And they released some. They've got these digital exclusives that they've been doing over there as well. And there's been a couple here over the past few weeks that they've been doing called DCeased Hope at World's End. They're only 99 cents on DC's app. I would highly suggest that you go read them. Go check them out. They're two books that I think just the timing of them seems to be perfect, and what they're saying just it seems to really hit the nail on the head for everything going on in the world, going on around us, and things like that. Some very interesting stuff. So I'm before I really get into all of that, I mean, let's not pretend like we don't know what I'm talking about here, okay? Let's not pretend like we don't know what's going on in the world right now. Probably in your hometown, if you're in a big city, especially things going on. Okay, I think maybe there's anyway, we'll get into that. First of all, guys, if in case you guys hadn't, you guys should definitely go out and read DC's DC's DCeased. There's a 6-issue miniseries right here's all of them. I bought all of these zombie variant covers. I've talked about these before. You got the Batman, you got the Superman, and I just want to say, man, it's messed up. Batman here and Superman, they didn't get the card cover treatment. They didn't get the variant card cover treatment like Wonder Woman got, like Joker got, like Harley Quinn got, like who's that guy? What's his name? I mean, they all got these variant card covers, man. Like they all got all the variant card covers. But it was a very, very good series. Now the thing is like you guys know if you follow the channel here long enough, if you followed long enough, I don't read much DC. I don't read a whole lot of DC books, right? But I got onto this one. I was like, hey, Tom Taylor's writing it. Tom Taylor at the time was doing a very good job writing the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man over at Marvel. I seen he was coming out with this. I'm not big into zombies in the first place, okay? But I decided to give this a read, the DCeased series, and I thought it was very good. In case you don't know what happened, basically what there was is there was this anti-life equation. There's an important reason why we're talking about all this. There's this anti-life equation that basically was brought to the earth, and what happened was it started to spread through TVs, through computers, and through phones, through social media and things like that. This anti-life equation, and basically what happened is as people would see this on their mobile devices, basically they'd start trying to like tear their brains out and like going and killing everybody, and everybody they scratch and touch and infect, like a zombie. You know what I mean? Just like that. Ooh, they eventually did DCeased Good Day to Die. Hey, he didn't get a card variant cover neither, and they were already doing the cardstock covers by that point. It's kind of messed up, DC. What's up with that, yo? So anyway, what it kind of showed was it showed the world, the heroes, as this anti-life equation was going around and everybody was dying. It was basically destroying the world. Everybody was being infected. We see how fast it gets, like that it infected everybody. For one, through the technology and things like that. Obviously, it spread really fast. Heroes, villains, good people, bad people, everybody in the whole world alike was getting affected by it. It was just kind of succumb to the anti-life equation, if you will, because it was being spread that fast through the technology. And we've seen that there were obviously people out there that had figured it out one way or another, or rather they noticed people getting on their phones and it happening, or whether they would, whether they just, were people that didn't have mobile phones and didn't really get on technology and all of that kinds of stuff. There were people who avoided it. So what had happened was all the heroes had basically kind of gathered everybody up, and they basically got on these arcs, if you will, and they shot out into space, and they had to go create a new world, right? That was really, I won't say that was their only option, but that was seemed to be their only option. That's what happened throughout the whole series. Well, anyway, they recently did this new series called oh man, I got those out of order. Called DCeased, Unkillables, and it was a 3-issue miniseries. So basically, so far we've got 10 issues here that were put out, and these were on print. All right, you can see this one right there. You got that one. That one. Hey, they all got the cardstock treatment. Anyway, what's going on here in DCeased Unkillables is what we see is this is basically the story. What goes on in DCeased Unkillables is we see the story of the villains, where DCeased was the main story, was about all of the heroes and what they were doing and what their kind of trials and tribulations to get through the anti-life equation, the thing that was tearing the very world apart, right? And here in DCeased Unkillables, we see in these 3-issue miniseries, we see what some of the villains were doing. We see as some of them were, just out there, just basically fighting for survival, just wanting to live on their own. Some of them were secluded on a little island, and nothing was going to get to them at this point, right? Ooh, but Mirror Master, man, oh yeah. Anyway, the point being is that we see throughout this series, we see DCeased Unkillables, we see that even the villains were sitting there trying to save civilization, sitting there trying to save everybody. They were trying to save the people around them, right? And then what DC has done here over the past couple weeks is they've released these other digital comics. They're only 99 cents. Even if you don't read the whole story, like the DCeased Unkillables, the DCeased, the regular DCeased, you should go read them anyway. You can purchase those on the DC app as well. But you should go read them. Because through DCeased Unkillables, like I said, we see that the bad guys were helping was trying to help the world survive. And then they released these 2 issues, DCeased Hope at World's End. And the first issue they released a couple weeks ago kind of told the story where we seen, what's his name? I don't know. He takes photos. Jimmy Olsen. Is Jimmy Olsen? Yeah. We've seen Jimmy Olsen going about his day, and all of a sudden that's when the anti-life equation came in, where he was there at the Daily Planet, and things started to go crazy. The shit started to hit the fan. And he was sitting there witnessing it all, and he kept a couple people from being infected and everything, and he started taking photos of everything that was going on around him. And one of the things he said in there, towards the very end of the story, as he was sitting there documenting it, and we could see that he even got affected by it. He even ran into Superman, as Superman asked him, he's like, hey man, why didn't you call when things were going crazy? Why didn't you call? And Jimmy told him, he's like, man, there's a larger world out there. There's more people out there that need your help than just me. I'm only one dude. There's a whole world out there. And while he was out there, in the meantime, he was sitting there taking pictures and everything. As the world descended into chaos, he was taking photos. And one of the things he was saying is it's important, just to see all these things. The world's coming to an end, and he's like, no matter what happens, seeing as the heroes were getting ready to take off and everything, they were leaving the planet. He was like, it's important to document this. People should see it and see what's going on. It's important. So then we get here into Hope at World's End, issue number 2 that just dropped today. It's 99 cents. I'm telling you, just go buy it. You could probably buy all of these there through the DC app. I bet you the DCeased, the regular one, is probably available in a trade version where it's probably only a handful of dollars for the original 6 issues. But then the thing that's really important is DC's just been really doing this great job out there of putting some kind of these stories and these narrative threads through things that just seem to be these, I don't know, just through these times. Because the other week, in case you didn't see it, I reviewed Hawkman issue number 23, which I thought was a very good issue. But the issue took place back in the 1800s when in I believe it was in Spain. And we've seen Hawkman was going through there as some sort of plague, was going through town and it was killing people like crazy. And he's sitting there, had those plague masks and everything. His was, looked like Hawkman. And it was a really great story, especially because of the timing of it. It spoke to a lot of things going on in the world around us today. Hope at World's End issue number 2 is another one of those. It's only 99 cents, and I'm telling you, and it's only 24 pages. And if it was in a comic book, it would really only be 12 because they're like half pages and everything. But you should go read it. Because this issue told the story of Black Adam as he was there in his nation. He was there as the anti-life equation came in and started to affect everybody. And he went through his nation and started just saving people. While he was there saving people, he was destroying and killing, just mowing down all of the people who had turned into these zombies, who had been affected by the anti-life equation. And what had happened was, as he was sitting there and had saved all of his people in his nation, Superman and the other superheroes, the super friends, they all come to Black Adam and they tell him, "Hey man, can we come here? Will you join us and help us save the world from this?" And him being stubborn and ignorant and all those things, Black Adam says, "No, we'll survive without you. And we'll survive and we'll do fine because you're not willing to do what it takes to save the people, to truly save your people. You won't go out there and kill all of these zombies to save your people. I will. That's how I've got so many people here surviving. That's why my nation hasn't been as affected as the rest of the world. Because I'm willing to make those sacrifices to save my people. Are you?" And of course we know that Superman and all the superheroes, all the super friends, they hang their head and they're like, no. They're not willing to sacrifice and kill all the zombie people, the people who've been affected by the anti-life equation, just to save everyone else. They're not willing to do it. But Black Adam is willing to kill even his own people who have been affected by it to save the ones who haven't. So he gets in there, he saves his people, Superman and the super friends, they end up taking off. He comes down and he Shazam's back to his normal being, and he's there talking to his counselor, I guess. I'm not very familiar with the DC world, but he's sitting there talking to him. He's sitting there saying, "Hey man, like, you've saved the people, but the people are still hurting, man. You need to go walk." So they go through a walk through the town, and they're checking everything out, and they come upon this lady, and she says, "Hey man, like, you guys are from wherever he's from, whatever temple or whatever, And like I said, I'm not very familiar with the DC world. And they're like, "Yes, what is it?" And she goes, "Well, my son, my son was hurt when our gods came down and attacked, and he was, in this human form, and obviously they didn't know." And he's like, "Oh well, yeah, Black Adam didn't," he was trying to explain that Black Adam didn't attack. Like, he was there saving everybody else, and he was only attacking the bad kids. Well, her son, we find out, she goes, "Can you help save him?" And they're like, "Well, let's see him." So she takes him to her son. She opens the door, and as a kid, and he had been affected by the anti-life equation. And what happens is he lashes out, and he goes and he actually scratches, I don't know, what is it, whatever his name is, Black Adam's human form name, goes and scratches him. And as he does that, he calls out Shazam and turns into Black Adam right there, and bam! But it's too late. He had already been affected. That's kind of where it ended at. You know what I mean? The thing I think is interesting about all of this is thinking about this story, thinking about the DCeased altogether, thinking about the DCeased Unkillables, the story it tells altogether, and thinking about these stories and DCeased Hope at World's End, and how they, I was out on a bike ride this morning when I heard that song that I played on the intro by Brian Welch. And it kind of made me think of that and everything that's going on. And, I realize everybody's doing this Blackout Tuesday thing right now. Hey, man, it's cool. Like, I didn't live stream this morning just because I wanted to get out and get a bike ride in, a longer bike ride. So I went out and I was crushing it. But I was heading home and I started playing that song. by Brian Welch, called Die Religion Die, and he's a religious guy. It's not about here's kind of what sums a lot of stuff up. There's this line in the song. You can go back and listen to it here in a little while, but he says, he's basically talking, he says, church is not inside, you're building walls. On Sunday you all sit while the world just falls. You know, and it's something very interesting, and it's a criticism that he's even pointing back at himself, you know, thinking about these things, and that a lot of people do this on Sundays. You know, they go to church and they observe their religion and all those kinds of things. While there are, you know, like, basically what it comes down to is the bad people, they don't take a day off. You know, if you're into religion and all that stuff, the devil don't take a day off. They don't. As much as it's nice to go out and do these things, and show, you know, maybe show our solidarity and things like that, it doesn't matter what we do. You know, the world still falls whether you sit idle or not, whether you say something or you don't. Will you do something? And that's what I think is interesting about all of these stories going on here. Is we seen as the heroes had gathered, you know, through the main story, all the heroes had gathered up what was left of civilization and got them on an ark and got them off the world, got them off the planet to go start a new life. Where we see in DCeased Unkillables, we get the story of the bad guys. Of the bad guys who went and they did the same thing. And that's, I think, what's interesting is we see through the course of both of these stories, we see the good guys and we see the bad guys. The good guys and the bad guys. Often what divides these people mostly is, you know, I've talked about a lot about this in the comic books, is what really separates the good guys from the bad guys is the means in which they're the means in which they're willing to justify the things they're willing to justify to meet their end. You know what I mean? Like, to get what they want, they're willing to do anything. They'll sacrifice anything. They'll do just about anything to get there. Right? That's usually what separates the good guys from the bad guys. But we can see as the world was descending here into chaos, the good guys and the bad guys, they all had the same thing on their mind. Their main thought was preservation, get others to safety. Those who have not been affected, those who have not been killed, we need to save them. They all had the same idea. They all went about it, you know, and they all went about it the same way, rounding people up and just keeping them safe from others, right? One singular thing brought them all together. One singular thing that affected the whole world brought them all together. And then here in Hope at World's End, we see Jimmy said it's important to document these things. Don't forget these things. That's what's important about it. That's what's important about our history and everything out there, right? Our monuments, our books and all that stuff. Whether it's things that you like or agree with or not, it should be documented. And destroying those documents and things like that doesn't help anything. And then we see here in issue number 2, where it doesn't matter what extreme measures you're willing to take, you take those measures, the world is still descending into chaos. And the ultimate thing that Black Adam even realized was that he should have worked together with the heroes. Because all of them working together is better than all of them working towards the same goal, but separately. Right? Interesting things to think about as you see all the things going on in the world around you, right now. The thing is, you know, there's I'm not here to comment on all of that. There's just a whole lot of things going on, and there's a lot of things in the world that are unjust, right? I think in the end, what happens is most of us, we all want different things. In the end, we all want to survive, we all want to live, and we all can. Right? That's ultimately what it comes down to. It's really what it comes down to is that everybody just has a different things they're willing to justify to meet their ends, right? It's interesting. Interesting. Especially as, like I said, it just makes me think so much about, like, in this book, throughout this anti-life equation. It makes me think about the world. It makes me think about social media and all those things around us, and how we even see here through these books. We see the heroes even fall to this anti-life equation. That gets spread how? By being affected by somebody else, or possibly even being on your phones, on these mobile devices, technology. Right? Is there not a message in there? That whether you're good, whether you're bad, you can be affected. I think something that's interesting was this story throughout Deceased Unkillables, though, is the story of Slade Wilson. Because he has that healing factor and he can heal from it, and he does a couple of times, right? It's interesting because I think his character kind of represents some of us, a lot of us out there, who are willing to, who are not, maybe not willing to, but can take in all this chaos without having to put it back out there in the world, without letting it affect us. We can, you know, overcome it. Not everybody is like that. Not everybody can overcome these things, right? Not everybody can be exposed to them and overcome these types of things. And I think that's I was sitting there bike riding, man. You know, when you're out there getting a good workout, things, you know, your mind really clears and you think about things. And I was just sitting there thinking about what's going on in the world. I was thinking about these stories. I was thinking about this 99-cent issue that I read from DC this morning as I was out riding. And as I was headed home, started listening to that song again, you know, by Brian Welch, you know, Die Religion Die. And I started thinking about that, you know. And it doesn't mean that you actually have to go out there and physically do something, you know. There's all kinds of things you can do to make it, to change the world, to make it a better place. You know what I mean? A lot of what happens in the world is how people react to the things that happen to them and around them, right? The problem is most people let their emotions get the best of them. Emotions um outweigh rationality when it comes to things. If you let your emotions run you, you know what I mean. When it comes to making a decision, and if you're emotional, instead of because somebody said something or something happened, you know, it's easier to make a rash decision because your emotions are taken over, as opposed to being rational. And this is something that happens to everybody at some point in their life. It's something that we all kind of got to get over. It's these emotions, right? And it's not to say that, you know, you shouldn't take into consideration those emotions. Those are what make you human. Those are what help make you base decisions. But they're also the same thing that, you know, sometimes hold us back. Those emotions that we have, you know, sometimes thinking about what could be better for everyone else might not be better for you, right? It's the story of Black Adam in today's episode, or in today's issue of Deceased Unkillables, Hope a World's End. Very interesting stuff, though. Very interesting stuff. I really highly suggest going out and reading it. Like I said, you can go read issue number 1 and issue number 2. They're only 99 cents each. I would highly suggest while you're there. If you go, if you don't, because you can't, because they're only digital. You can't find them at your LCS. Maybe they'll probably put them in some of the books sometime. You know, one of these days they'll maybe put them in. You know, when they do a collected edition or something. But I would highly suggest reading them. I would highly suggest reading Deceased and Deceased Unkillables, and even Deceased a Good Day to Die. All very good stuff. All very good stuff. I don't want to keep this. I don't want to keep this very long or anything. So you know, I'm sorry that's, you know, not really interacting with the chat. I just read this book and just everything going on in the world today. Getting, you know, just my ride, just everything kind of going on. I was like, man, like, you know what? I have to do this live stream just because this is just, you know, I think there's something to be told here, and I wanted to share. I wanted to share my love of this series and this book and the message that maybe you can get out of it in the world. After all, isn't that what all this stuff is for? Isn't that what all our entertainment and things like that are for? They're things that help us think about things, right? To maybe give us a new perspective, new insight, more insight. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for being here. I do greatly appreciate it. I hope you all have a very good day today. Hope you have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you all tomorrow on the Morning Movie Chat. Later.